Well, hello, Bill.
Hey, Don. How you doing today?
Doing great. Working on our podcast and our show here for a few weeks now, and we're having a lot of fun. And we appreciate everyone that has listened and watched. And due to the transformations that we're going through, we find that we feel that it would be best that we change the name. And so, as of now, we're going to refer this as to the Old Sautee Show. That's going to be our new moniker, and we formerly was the Front Porch Podcast, and a couple of other renditions of that. But going forward, we're going to try to be consistent with the Old Sautee Show. So, Buster,
welcome to the Old Sautee Show. Yeah, I had somebody come up to me a few weeks ago and say, "Hey, you know, you're not actually on a front porch."
That's exactly one of the reasons why we thought it might be appropriate to have a change. So we're close to the front porch, but not technically on the porch. So Old Sautee Show fits pretty much anywhere we could be around here. So I think that'll be good going forward. So tune in as we go along to the Old Sautee Show.
Almost
it's hard to say.
Well, I wasn't here last week, Bill. Did I miss anything exciting?
Yeah, we had another great day at the store. Matter of fact, it was a huge day at the store. We were busy constantly, and we had a special guest last week, Don.
We did. We had Mr. Hugh Rainey, who is a local now, as we were talking earlier. You'd be here 50, 60 years. You're not quite a local, but you're close. And
close.
Hugh's close, and he's been here since the early 70s, and he shared his experiences with us. And
that came off really well.
It was really
now, that
good.
was a podcast last week, but today's a show. But nonetheless,
Right.
But it was really good.
But it looked very similar.
Yeah.
Well, can somebody tell me about this giant white pumpkin I'm looking at?
Oh.
This thing makes me look anorexic. Where did y'all come
You wondered
across
what that was, didn't you?
Well, that pumpkin weighs approximately 215 pounds. It was grown by one of our local youth here, Mr. Nathan Eason, who's actually our county extension agent. His son grew this, and they entered it in a contest. They weighed it and then sent in the weight to, I guess, to a state level contest. So they're waiting to hear the results, but while we're waiting, they shared these with us.
Well, that's cool to take it out of here.
That's nice.
So we're going to have a lot of pumpkin pie one of these days. 215 pounds worth of pumpkin pie.
That's a
lot of
pie.
pumpkin pie.
That'll give you a good opportunity to wear a new hat. We'll get you a chef's hat between now and then.
Hey, I'm good. I'm good with hats.
Well, Don, we've got a special guest with us today.
We absolutely do, and actually, Miss Barbara Johnston, who has been in the area for a long time.
53 years.
53 years. So she's a near local, but she has a lot of experience in this area and with the Sautee Store. And we're going to let her share that story. But she's actually is the inspiration for this show. When we first came here to the store about 2 years ago, Barbara was one of our first guests, and we did an interview for her and of her and her story. But we've gotten a little better at it, as I was telling her earlier before we came on, and we just wanted to bring her back and get her in full view and full volume so that we can have that story for a long, long time. Barbara, we thank you so much for coming and joining us today.
It's my honor to be here. And it's a different venue, but I don't know if you're better or not, but about the same, which is good. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, just thank you for coming. But tell us about how your early connection with the Old Sautee Store, Barbara.
Well, my sister Astrid Fried and Mervin, her husband, this is a picture of them. Can everybody see this?
Yeah, we got it.
Is that good? Okay. Astrid started selling Norwegian sweaters. If you could just hand that over to me, that would be great. She started selling Norwegian sweaters in 1964 on the porch of the Old Sautee Store. And people used to joke about, selling Norwegian wool sweaters in Georgia, where it's so warm, you'll never make it. But she did make it and really had a following. She had some beautiful sweaters. And being Norwegian herself, of course my family's from Norway, she had all the right connections to import these sweaters. And they were beautiful. You bought a sweater and you had it forever. I've heard other people say, I still have my sweater.
Absolutely.
I still wear it. And the wools are just beautiful. I went with her to some of the area where they were being made. Dala of Norway was the person and that company who made the sweaters for the Olympics a long time ago. So they're really pretty.
How does one go about maintaining a sweater for 50, 60 years? I'm sure there's got to be some technique other than just throwing it in the washing machine.
Well, you don't throw it in the washing machine first.
Well, it shows you how much I know.
It'll be
That
about
would
this
be a
big.
big
and then it
mistake.
comes out.
What you do is very carefully take care of it. It needs to be dry cleaned. If you were going to wash it, you would wash it in cold water. But it doesn't need an awful lot of care because it's made so well that it stands up. You expect you buy it, you'll have it forever. It's one of those clothes that when you go to the store and you buy something, it's not like, oh, it'll change, the design will change next year and you'll be out of vogue. It's the same wonderful pattern forever.
We still have some sweaters here in the store.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. uh-huh.
Recently, we were able. In fact, there's a new shipment here now.
Oh, really? From
Yes.
Dala? Oh, excellent. Oh, I like those people.
You know, it's a little more challenging for us to make those connections. And
Yes, I'm sure with
import
imports
products.
today. Yes, it
But,
would be.
But that was one of the things we've been working on, and thankfully we've got them in the store now.
Excellent, excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
Well, Barbara, I know that you have something very special with you today that you've shared a little bit with us, and we're just very intrigued to hear more about that. Tell
Okay.
us about what we have here.
Okay. Well, because of my age, I'm now getting to be in the late 80s, so therefore don't have to, but I choose to move to a retirement community. And all the things I've been collecting, I felt would be nice to be here with Dawn and Rosemarie at the Old Sautee Store. So I've been collecting things, and I'll just go through some of these things and sort of tell you what they are. Mervin was Astrid's husband. He was also her partner in developing and starting the Old Sautee Store. The front of the store is an old country museum. They went to different country stores that were going out of business, and they collected a lot of things, and they made a museum in the front of the store. You don't have to pay to go to this museum. You come in and you sort of feel like you're in the old country store of years ago. And so this is Mervin. He also played the guitar, and they used to have a barber shop there, so he has a chair, but when he died, he had to give it back to who owned it. And then he played the guitar in Helen. They also had a little shop in Helen. And here he is working at the old country store in the front. He did most of the things in the front of the store. Astrid was the one who imported all the Norwegian things. She also had beautiful crystal and jewelry from Norway. She loved the Old Sautee Store, and she loved her customers. So when she made trips to Norway, which there's a lot of things in here about that, she would send postcards to all her customers and tell them of things that she saw that she was bringing back to them for them to purchase, which I thought was a wonderful merchandising idea, that she sent a card to them and said, look what I'm doing. I'm in Norway, and I'm going to be bringing something to you that you can come to the store and buy. So of course that helped a lot. That was very smart of her. She was very smart, my sister. So this is pictures of the store, and this is in the front of the store. And there's Mervin. Mervin behind the counter of the store. If you come and see, you'll see all these things, which is just amazing to me. The little bottles and all the treatments that people used to have. The country store, years ago, was the place where people would go and they would get their news. Not like today, but they would find out who was pregnant, who died, what was going on, who was having an affair down the street. It was just the place to go. So you'd sit around, and then you'd see, oh, I need that Lydia Pinkham's liver pills because I'm having liver problems. So that was a great way, years ago, the way things used to be, so unlike today. And these are pictures that are in that museum part, and you'll see all these things, and which is so nice of Dawn Marie and Rosemarie that still have this store and keep it up the way it used to be. They have some of these things. I think you still have the machine, the music machine.
Are y'all responsible for the Nickelodeon?
Yes, of course. For the Nickelodeon and the one that showed risque pictures and all those other things.
Shows ankles.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That was risque in the back in the
Risque
day.
60 years ago was very different than today. They would be shocked at what's happening today. So here's Lydia Pinkham's vegetable compound. It's a good picture of this one. And here are a lot of the treatments, and here are the dyes and mints and things. And more of the different, they would combine. In a country store, you would get treatments, but you could also get your washing powders, and they also have a coffin for a child, which is always very shocking when you see that, but you would get everything through the country store.
That's
So
neat.
that was a different thing.
Hey, here's some medicine for your kid, and if that doesn't work out,
Come back and see us.
We're saving that.
come on back to the back end of the
Right.
store.
This is Astrid and Mervin when they were younger, and this is at the end of their life. And then I have my son and my daughter Jennifer, my son John and my daughter Jennifer, also were very involved in the store because when we came, they were just starting the store. So, you know, when the weekends came, it's like, oh, who's going to work at the store this weekend? And it would be Jennifer's turn or John's turn, and sometimes even my husband, Jack. But for the most part, he didn't have to.
Now, I heard a little rumor that Mervin was a bit of a trickster
Oh,
when
my
he would be
gosh.
up here working at the store.
That wasn't only a rumor, that was a true tale. Yes, Mervin had something called the Wampus that's still on the front of the store, and it's a box. And, you know, people said, oh, a Wampus, what's that? And they thought maybe here in the country it's a different animal that nobody had seen before. And Mervin got like a foxtail, and he put it in the box, and it was a grate in the front. And if you wiggle this thing, and then if you wiggle it too much, then the foxtail jumps out, and people get scared because they think that the Wampus is jumping out at them.
We
So-
did that at least 3 or 4 times today alone. And people will come in that bring their adults
Yes.
that learned it, saw it as children. They're bringing their children or their grandchildren to see the Wampus.
Yes.
They don't tell them about the store. We're going to North Georgia. We're going to go see the Wampus. And
I
mean,
love that. Mervin would love that.
Oh yeah, and it's we've had to repair a few things on it, but it still looks just it's 60 years old, I guess.
Yes, that's right.
And so it's a lot of fun. Again, we've had fun
Yes.
with it today.
I'm from here, and Bill scared me with the Wampus.
Oh, really? Oh, you haven't had the experience until you've seen the Wampus. That
right,
was
that's the
quite
real
the
thing.
thing. Yes, yes.
So,
Yeah.
Barbara, put us on chronological track here. That was in 1964 that Mervin and Astrid came to the store. Is
Well,
that correct?
In 1962, Mervin came down here. Orbit was a manufacturing place of slacks and things like that in Helen, Georgia. So that what brought them to this area in the first place. He was a slack designer, and he continued with that. They had recently gotten married. It was a second marriage for both of them. Astrid really didn't have anything to do. She had been a high-powered secretary in New York. Sitting just at home was not going to do it for her. So she thought, oh, okay, maybe I'll sell sweaters. And that's when people thought, sweaters in North Georgia where it's summer, it's the South. And she said, oh, let me try. And of course she was successful. But she started on the porch of the store. In 1964, the store that also was a post office moved across the street, which is now still the Sautee Post Office. And then Astrid moved inside the store from the porch to the inside. And that's when they decided to have the museum part, and they started collecting things. And then as it evolved, there was more of a calling for Astrid's sweaters from Norway. She had cheeses and chocolates, and she had crystal and beautiful jewelry. And she also, when you bought us something at the Old Sautee Store, it was beautifully wrapped. So that was one thing. You'd say, oh, I need a wedding gift. Oh, let me wrap it for you. And it didn't cost that much, but it made a big difference. And everybody said, oh, you're getting something from this Old Sautee Store, which really was special. So she had crystal and, jewelry and all kinds of things. She also had Appalachian things, like she had books, and she had, people would bring sometimes preserves, and she would sell that. So it wasn't just Norway, it was American things too, and Appalachian things. And she was so popular that as the Olympics came to this country, well, they come many times to this country, but in Atlanta, Coca-Cola made a metal sign. You might still have one.
We do.
Okay, it's really nice. Coca-Cola made it, and it's a picture of the Old Sautee Store. So it became a place to go. People would go and say, have you been to the Old Sautee Store? You could be in France and somebody would say, oh, have you ever been to Georgia? Oh, you must have been to the Old Sautee Store. And people would say, oh yeah, I've been there, which is just amazing. I remember Astrid, we were on the elevator once because we'd gone someplace in Europe, and Astrid, she loved the store, so she said, oh, I've got the Old Sautee Store. I said, please don't say that. She said, I know they know about it. And they said, well, we do. And these people, from all over knew about the Old Sautee Store. So I think they had a real way of letting everybody know about the store. They had wonderful merchandising ideas.
And they're still coming today, and from all
Yeah.
over the world. Bill sees them and talks to folks every time he's here.
And today we had, that I know of, we had Holland, we had Germany, had a lovely couple from Germany, spent probably an hour here.
Really?
And we had a group from, family from Colombia, South America,
How nice.
and I think one other country today. But yeah, I think, well, I know that every continent has been here,
Yeah.
and including Antarctica. The
Really?
guy spent a couple of months in Antarctica, so I said I claim him as being. But then every state of the union,
Yeah.
New Hampshire had been left out. Well, finally a guy showed up that had been to New Hampshire. So we've got every state and every continent. And I can't hardly think of a country in Europe that hasn't been here. But there's probably one. Liechtenstein
right.
may not have been here, but the Far East. We had China today. We had a lady from China.
Really?
Yeah, so it's really amazing. They find us on
Yes.
this little 2-lane road.
Well, it was really a destination for
Yes,
people
yes.
too. They would come as far as Atlanta, and they say, well, how far is Sautee? Well, it's not that far. You can just drive up and go, like an hour and a half, and you get up to Sautee, which is beautiful, which is a beautiful area.
Oh, yes.
And then they also say something about Helen. Astrid and Mervin had a shop in Helen. They also had a little shop in Vinings in Atlanta.
Oh, is that right?
And that was interesting because they got those people in Vinings in Atlanta to come up here, but they also brought their merchandise down there. And people loved it, especially the farmer's cheese and the crackers. Actually, it was Mervin's idea to have the ginger snaps with the Scandic cheese, and it's really like having cheesecake. I mean, it's a little mini cheesecake when you have a ginger snap and some farmer's cheese. So, not just a...
And there's just so many things that we're fortunate to have today that they created back those
Yeah.
years ago, and the people that continue to come in and tell us that story of how long they've been coming here and what they remember, and a lot of what they remember are
Yes.
Astrid and Mervin and the things that they did. So it's so nice to be able to hear more about that story and see pictures
Right.
of them and the things they did. It's just so awesome, Barbara.
Well, I think it's wonderful that you are carrying on that tradition, because for me, that you're a local person, you and your wife, you know about the area and you know how beautiful it is and you know the history of the store, and that you're carrying on the tradition of having it a fun place, having it a special place to come to. Come and have some cheese, have some drink. Like I know they're selling apple cider now, or different drinks. it's welcoming the community to come in. It's different than just going to a shop. I mean, it's a different feeling, and I hope that feeling continues forever. And I wish you so much success in your operation of the store.
We appreciate that very much. And
Yeah.
coming from you, that means a lot.
Oh,
When
well,
you mentioned in the early days, people would exchange information, you know, the
Yes.
local gossip, the local information. They do that today. I mean, it isn't uncommon for people to sit out here and start talking, and there's a lot of energy, that,
Yeah.
apparently very similar to the energy that was had in those days. Because
Yes.
people will come and stay and talk about friends. Friends will meet here.
That's right.
Yesterday morning, before I had somebody did a business transaction out on a picnic table.
Yeah.
I think they sold a car or something. They would meet at the Sautee Store because they know
Yeah.
where that is. So it's a place for fellowship as well as
Yes.
selling the products, and it's a marvelous place.
It is. And also you have that big tree in the front of the store, which I know if you pray over it as much as we've prayed, that when we have a storm, nothing hits it.
We're trying to
Yeah.
keep, we're praying, and
Yeah.
it's not a young tree, obviously.
Yes, but it's really something special. And, you know, knowing in this area, living in this area with trees and the beautiful landscape and the valley and the mountains, it's just amazing. And that tree, you just wonder what kinds of stories were told under the tree.
Well, one of the traditions says that that's where Sautee and Nacoochee met
Oh.
or gathered. That was their rendezvous area.
Oh, well, that's
And I mean, it doesn't match with the numbers, but as far as the
Yes.
ages, because the Sautee Valley's been that much longer than
That's
that
right.
tree has been here. That
That's
tree is
right.
what, close to 200 years old, I guess.
I would think.
yeah.
According to its birth certificate, yeah.
Yeah. I think it is. An arborist
Serial
was in
number.
not long ago, and he was
Yeah.
telling me he thought it was about 200. Of course, it's getting weary.
Well, but it's still there.
It's still there.
And that's amazing to me.
Yeah, it is to me too.
Yes.
So, Barbara, coming along on the timeline, Astrid and Mervin were here till the late 1990s. Is that?
Well, Astrid died in 2001. And then my son managed the store for 5 years. John. And then we sold it to Galen and Jean Green. And then you bought it from them, from the Greens.
The Greens were here about 19 years.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and we've been here 2 years now. So altogether, that's 152 years.
Oh, that's a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah. Including the Williams family
Yeah.
that built the store. And,
Yes.
But that would make us the fifth owner if we count the Williams. Astrid,
The Woods, what was his name? Brown.
Brown.
Yeah. Brown.
Brown, yeah. And then Astrid and Mervin, and then
The Greens.
the Greens, and then you.
and your son.
Oh, my son.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it'd be 5.
Yeah, that's right. John actually managed it. It was still the same family.
Yes.
Was the
Well,
Browns
so-
and the Williams related?
No, not that I know. I'm sorry if that's I'm
I
stepping
don't
on
know.
anybody's
I don't know.
toes.
I always had in my mind that they might have been related.
No, the Williams, you know, they owned a lot of property,
Right,
and
right.
they still come here to the valley many times, holidays, and they share a house somewhere in the area, and different timeshares for them, and they're well known in the community, the Williams, and they had a lot of property here, but yeah.
So, there were managers at least then, because I've seen receipts where
With the Williams.
Williams' name on.
Well, he was the postmaster, and I have the
Maybe.
original letter we were
Yeah,
talking
we were talking
about.
about it's in this.
Maybe
batch,
they
yeah.
he signed for the delivery, I guess, from the for the store, even though he was the postmaster. But
Yes, I guess
There's a
so.
letter when they were. When one of them passed away and asked his brother to get in there.
Yes, yes. So yeah, it definitely was a Williams area, and if you know, look at that, the Williams, and then I think they're somewhat involved. Maybe the Johnstons are related in there. I don't. That genealogy I'm not really up on, so I don't want to say anything about it.
But it's all around us, right around us.
Yes,
And,
yes,
a big part of the store history as well.
that's true. And Courtney Johnston and her husband, of course. Yes, they're
Live
up
next
in-
door.
Yes, so they also have a lot to say about this area. And she worked at the store for what, many years?
Well, she's not right now, but she has recently been working here.
Okay. Yeah.
Here's a receipt for Allen to Allen Williams in 1916 for a box of nails, and he paid 50 cents for it. And I don't know what that is. Slim trapper files, whatever
Yeah.
that is. Car bolts and carriage bolts. I guess that's what those are. But anyway, and the total bill with all these things, and 50 of one thing, it was $7.83. And we had the receipt for it. Barbara had the receipt for that. I think that's interesting to me.
Yes, it is interesting.
But that's Allen Williams, and so the
Yes.
store was 30-something years old at that time, 40 years old, I guess.
Yeah. Astrid bought the store from Mr. Williams in Chicago in 1971. So I didn't say that when you asked for how the store came along, but she traveled to Chicago and bought the store from Mr. Williams.
She had to be a bit persuasive, I think, to get that.
Her Norwegian background was very helpful because he was married to a woman who was Norwegian, and so he had an affection for Norwegian women or Norwegian people, and so and I think that he should be very proud that Astrid took it over, and what she did with it was amazing. I mean, it's, you know, I'm really proud of how it's been, and it's really the community has been involved too. It's really taken it up and used everything that was in it.
People are very proud. Local people
Yeah.
are excited to bring their guests, and that happens every day.
Yes.
Somebody that lives here, I want to bring my folks, my friends, my family to the
Right.
store.
So we talked about on the podcast a couple of weeks ago about trolls, and we now have the trolls back in the store.
Oh, really good.
Give
Oh,
us
people
your,
are gonna love
Give
that.
us your perspective on trolls, Barbara. The ones that were here back in the day,
Oh.
and trolls in general.
Okay, well, that's a big thing for somebody who's Norwegian, which I am. Trolls, there's a lot of stories about trolls in Norway, good ones, bad ones, and so on. But Astrid and Mervin had some beautiful carved wooden trolls by somebody called Henning. And Henning is a well-known Norwegian artist, and he made a wedding procession for the Epcot Center in Florida. Where is Epcot?
Orlando.
Orlando, yeah.
Where?
Orlando.
That's right, thank you. As I said, my age, I'm just checking on my age every once in a while. But anyway, so you'll forgive me if I ask you a question too. But yeah, anyway, so the trolls you were asking about. Well, some of those trolls, people collect trolls because the wooden ones are hand carved, they're beautiful. And the wedding procession is beautiful. They're all individual because in Norway, you have a fiddler who walks in the front. You have a woman who's the bride who wears a Norwegian crown of jewels. And then you have the procession of people. So this wedding procession that Henning carved is at Epcot. And my daughter Jennifer has also one at her home like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have the big troll, but he hides, and so people come in and ask for him. They say, "Well, you have to look for him." They say, "He used to be
Yes.
on the front porch." I said, "But now he hides." And so we have people. We literally have people wander around try to find the big troll. He's in there.
Does he
Really?
Yeah,
have
the big
somewhere
one-
different every day?
Oh my gosh.
We have moved him from time to time, or I move things in front of him so that they can't see him. And so, but yeah, we have a lot of fun with
Yes.
that. And then Don has they have trolls back in the store itself in a nice case. They're very, very beautiful.
Well, there's a wonderful story about trolls where goats go over a bridge and the troll is under the bridge and, you know, and
Billy Groat's Gruff.
that's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
So-
were talking about that in the previous episode.
Oh, I see.
I know I read that or had it read to me as
Yes.
a kid, but I want to go read it again
Yeah.
Yeah.
after this conversation.
I don't remember enough about
I think
it.
I need to bone up on the
On
Billy Goat
trolls.
Scruff.
Well, I think
Buster,
if you're going to
put
be
that
an
on your
owner here,
list.
All right.
We just so thankful, Barbara, that
Oh,
you came by, and
it
we
was my
wish you luck
pleasure.
in your new
adventure.
adventure, and we hope you'll come back and visit us,
Oh, I will.
and let us know if we can help you in any way. And
Thank you so
and,
much.
And I know you've got some ideas on other things that we may explore here on the show,
Okay.
and we welcome that anytime that you can and pass that along to us, that would be awesome.
It would be my pleasure.
Well, Bill, what else is
Been a
going
good-
on today?
Well, it's been you couldn't ask for a more perfect
Chamber
day.
of Commerce
I mean-
weather today.
I mean, it is. I've told several people this is the way it always is at the store. And they come in, I said, well, I mean, this is the way.
Yeah.
They say it's beautiful weather. Well, this is, of course, this is what happens at the Old
Well,
Sautee
it's
Store.
always
Yes.
here.
Like this.
Yes.
But it's a marvelous day, and we've had just a wonderful group of people.
That's
a lot
great.
of fun, and
And they keep coming, don't they?
oh yeah, they'll be coming. A lot of times they're here before we open, and
Yeah.
they're here when we're trying to close. You know, so.
Well, and you
but-
always have something different too.
Oh yeah, and I always tell people at the store they've been here before. I said this: it's exactly the same and totally different.
That's right.
So they have a lot of time, and of course,
Yeah.
Rosemary does her best to have a lot of fresh things in the store all the time, and unique things that you don't
Yes.
necessarily buy other places. Just apparently like Astrid did, you know, just
Yes,
something
that's
you can't
right.
buy. You can't buy it elsewhere, but you
Yeah.
can go to the store and get it.
And it's the love of the customers.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
when you really, and I'm impressed when you come into the store and somebody welcomes you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're going to somebody's home.
Yeah.
Welcome. We want you to be here.
Yeah.
And people like that.
Yeah.
You don't get that very much anymore.
We do our best to
Yeah.
connect with people.
That's wonderful. Real proud of it.
It's all
Thanks
right.
again, Barbara. Thanks, Bill.
God bless y'all.
welcome.
Have a great day.
Buster?
Great week.
It's always good to have you on our show and
Well, I
lead
appreciate it.
us through our travel here and get us out of here.
All right, we want to thank our guest, Miss Barbara Johnston, for joining us today. For Bill Cohen and Don Allison, I'm Buster Talent. This has been the Old Sautee Show at the Old Sautee Store. We'll see you next week.